It's noon here in where the hell am I? Ventnor City, New Jersey, and our nation's capital, Washington, D.C. And this is news that you can use from CarEdge for Monday, August 19th, with your host, me, Ray, and, well, the guy wearing a cap today, Zach. How are you today? You feeling any better, handsome?
I'm dealing with something, man. I still have a cough, so you're going to hear me go on mute a few times, and yeah, so I'm still sick. But, folks, one thing that isn't sick, or actually, I think the young people do say things are sick. One thing that is sick is CarEdge.com. Trying to get edgy with your car, look no further than CarEdge.com. If we can help you buy or lease a vehicle, let us do it. If you want to know what the dealer paid for all their new car inventory, plus all sorts of other insights like that, get CarEdge Insights. If you own a vehicle and you want to protect it, consider getting one of our vehicle service contract, or commonly referred to extended warranty products, $150 off, Dad, between now and the end of the month. And we do have tire and wheel coverage and key replacement. And if we can help you sell a vehicle or research a vehicle, you do all that at CarEdge.
May I ask a question? Could you check for me right now how much tire and wheel coverage would be for my Mini? Because for the second time in 27 months, ladies and gentlemen, I had to replace the left front tire in my car. Only because I hit an uncovered manhole on Friday on New Hampshire Avenue and East West Boulevard. Please, whatever you do, don't drive there. Had to wait an hour and a half for a tow truck to come pick me up. And hey, you're going to listen to this. And then another hour and a half for them to drive me to the dealer. And thankfully, even though the dealer didn't have a matching tire, they had a tire, and they got me back on the road Friday night at 5:40 so I could continue my trek back to Ventnor City. And I was lucky enough to get home by 9:30.
All right, we are going to spend more time on that, but Pops, we got to get folks into the main story. The Great Reset, it's getting even worse. Do you want to start here, Dad, with General Motors cutting an additional 1,000 software jobs? So we're getting more of the white-collar corporate folks getting laid off. Or would you prefer to start here with the average dealership pre-tax profit slipping 33%? Or would you prefer that we go this direction, Dad, and we spend a little bit of time with our favorite automaker, Stellantis, idling their Michigan engine plant for a week? Where do you want to start, Dad? The Great Reset, it's resetting.
Who keeps pushing the damn reset button? And are they doing it just for you? So that you can use reset in the title of every thumbnail that we ever produce. Let's just go in the order that you started. Let's start with GM.
This would not be the first time GM has laid off their white-collar jobs. We've got GM getting rid of 1,000 software jobs. The job cuts include about 600 people who work at their global technical center, according to a source familiar with GM's plans. GM did this in Arizona last year. They laid off some of their technical staff. This is part of a broader trying to cut costs approach from General Motors. And I think another sign, Dad, that we are going to see changes in how these businesses operate amidst headwinds, amidst challenges where people aren't buying their vehicles.
Yeah, but the good news is that you now have 1,000 software engineers to choose from at CarEdge if you need to add any software engineers, because you could be dealing with software engineers that actually have an automotive background. What does it say when you have to lay off all those people? It could say a couple of things. A, your workforce could be bloated to begin with. And B, maybe, just maybe, your software division isn't quite as profitable as you had hoped it would be. And you don't see anything on the horizon that would indicate that it will get to the point where you hoped it would be. And so you have to start making some serious decisions about staffing. Now, it's certainly unfortunate for the 1,000 people that have been laid off or will be laid off. But I don't know that working for an automobile manufacturer is the safest job in the world these days.
I think you're onto something, Dad, because we are seeing pressure on these automakers. The cuts come about a year after GM closed one of its 4 U.S. information technology offices, cutting more than 900 jobs in Arizona. The company has focused on expanding its software talent in recent years as the company invests in electrification, autonomy, technology, and in-vehicle services. GM has said software and services could generate as much as $25 billion in revenue by 2030. Maybe that's not the case. Maybe that's what these layoffs indicate. Is maybe that's not the case.
What do you think? Maybe that 25 billion becomes 5 billion in a heartbeat. Maybe all the earnings that they were hoping to get off of software just don't exist. That these were pie in the sky numbers that people were throwing around to make it. I mean, because Stellantis is doing the same thing. They had projected. God, I'm really having a tough time with that word today. They had projected $30 billion in annual income from software and subscriptions. It ain't happening at Stellantis. It ain't happening at GM.
Two ideas or two themes here, Dad. You've got like strategic missteps. That's like something we're going to be talking about for decades to come in the auto industry. Strategic missteps. One is electrification, and obviously it hasn't been a big enough pickup there. And the other being this push for people will subscribe for more acceleration in their car and all that crap. The other story you have here is just outright refusal to lower the price of vehicles. We saw the percentage of average transaction price made up of incentives go up last month.
Yes.
So automakers are spending more money to get people to buy their vehicles, but they're refusing to find a way to sell cars by incentivizing them enough. And instead they're just cutting all these other things. Like it's just, those are two stories that I think are threads worth pulling on here.
Are you suggesting that instead of having to lay people off, instead of having to increase your incentives, that perhaps some of these manufacturers would be better off lowering the prices on the vehicles to begin with by reducing the MSRPs, or actually producing more of the lower trim level vehicles so that they can encourage more people to enter into the marketplace again? Is that what you're suggesting?
Yes.
Wow, what a concept.
All right, the other OEM reset news is obviously Stellantis. They have idled one of their engine production plants, the one that makes the V6 engines for the Jeep Wrangler and Ram 1500 Classic, to balance supply with demand. So there you go, folks. When people are talking about the car market resetting, it is. These are the decisions that demonstrate that.
Well, if you're Stellantis and you want to balance supply with demand, well, then you might want to shutter some of these plants for several months at a time, because in many cases, they have a year's worth or more days supply of certain vehicles that aren't selling because, well, they're overpriced significantly to begin with, and because over the last 4 years, they have raised their average MSRPs by more than 50%. So, we want to balance demand with supply. Well, why don't you build the vehicles people actually can afford to buy? And guess what? Demand would go up, and you probably wouldn't have to idle these damn plants. But then again, what do I know? I didn't go to Harvard. I didn't go to Wharton. I went to the College of Hard Knocks.
You know who else is going to the College of Hard Knocks right now? This is our third story on the reset front. Average dealership pre-tax profit slipped 33% in the first half of 2024, report says. The report from Presidio Group and NCM found that the typical dealership hasn't reduced expenses quickly enough amid profitability declines. Come on, man. Remember the headlines that we would read in automotive news? I don't know, a year ago, 2 years ago? Dealers, record-setting profits. OEMs, record-setting profits. Folks, reset, bubble, whatever the hell you want to call it. The market is entirely different today than it was a year, 2, 3 years ago. These headlines demonstrate that.
Yeah, and what's amazing for dealers that have bloated staffs and bloated expenses is that one of the reasons they were as profitable as they were in 2021 and 2022 is because uh, during the pandemic, they cut their staff and they cut their marketing expenses dramatically, and they were making money hand over fist. They didn't have the employee expense that many of the stores have now. They were overcharging for every vehicle. There were market adjustments, and people were paying them, um, and that continued in 2021 and 2022. And last year in 2023, things started to slow down a little bit profit wise. Didn't dealers Dealership owners tend to be reactive, not proactive. Most dealerships are reactive, not proactive. They they find it difficult to look deep into the future and determine what their course of action should be, and they wait in many cases until it's too late. And then all of a sudden they go, "Ooh, we probably should have been looking at our expenses all this time." When business is really good and profits are really high, they just don't look at the expenses on a monthly basis as perhaps they as closely as perhaps they should. If you're watching your expenses when times are good, then you won't have to lay off people or wonder where your profits have gone when things slow down a little bit because you've been proactive. And I can tell you from working for most dealers that I've worked for, they're all reactive.
Yeah. So that's part of the story. I think the other part of the story, it's like showing up on both sides of this multi-tiered system is, yeah, dealers and any business owner should be, can Monday morning quarterback anything and be like, all right, we should have been more proactive. Fine.
Yeah.
It's also showing up at the OEM level, Dad. Like they just don't have good products to sell right now. That's also what's happening to a degree. And so some of this is outside of their control. Like they used to make a bunch of money. Why? Because there was, I don't want to say artificially lowered supply, but because of unforeseen circumstances, supply was really low. And when supply is really low, you can jack up prices. What happens when supply is really high? You take it in the shorts. You absolutely do. And Dad, what is the most shocking thing we read last week in this piece of research from Cox Automotive? What was the most, you remember this? What was the most, excuse me. Well, excuse me. What was the most shocking thing we read in this report that talked about incentives? Do you remember it?
I don't. Please share with me. As I get older, my memory gets worse.
It was, wait for it, folks.
I'm waiting.
Every major brand except for Ram had higher incentive levels year over year in July, with the highest incentive spend among volume automakers at Infiniti, Volkswagen, Audi, and Nissan. Surprisingly, despite industry-leading inventory levels, incentive spending at the core Stellantis brands of Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram remains below the industry average. That was the most shocking thing we read last week. There's just defiance happening right now, both at the OEM and dealer level, of what's actually happening. If Stellantis, the parent company, has refused to increase incentives relative to their competition, what do you think some of these dealers are doing? Not just Stellantis dealers, but Acura dealers, Chevy dealers. This is really annoying. Chevy dealers. They're also being defiant, Dad. They're also making bad business decisions, holding on to inventory, thinking, okay, we can get some sucker to buy it. But no, that sucker's not showing up. So I think there are two parts to the story. There's definitely all business owners can probably be more proactive versus reactive. And then there's the weave product that just is not moving, and we're being idiotic. We're just refusing to accept that.
Well, and it's not just weak product that isn't moving. It is entirely overinflated pricing of the weak product that isn't moving. You hit a point of no return when, I believe at Ram, the average transaction price for a Ram pickup truck is north of $68,000. Okay? North of $68,000 for a Ram pickup truck. Now, I'm not saying that because I'm saying Ram doesn't make a good pickup truck. They do. They've made good pickup trucks for years. Okay? But an average transaction price north of $68,000, we say this week in and week out, who the hell can afford it? Well, apparently it's less and less people, which is why all those Ram pickup trucks are sitting on dealers' lots. When times get tough, it just seems to me, and it just seems to me that if you lower prices enough, people will come back into the market. Now, how do you lower prices? You could either increase your incentives, which Ram has decided, well, our incentives are going to be less than what our competitors' incentives are, or you could build less expensive vehicles so that the average transaction price would naturally come down because you would be selling more and more of the lower priced product to bring that transaction price down. And Stellantis has seemed to have said, well, we're not going to do either one of those things, and it's our dealers' problems to figure out how to get rid of their inventory. And ultimately, I'm still of the belief that Stellantis is doing this on purpose to force any number of their dealers to either close up their stores, give back the franchises, or involuntarily go out of business. It is a corporate decision to help the thinning of the herd of dealerships, so to speak. And, if I was a CDJR dealer, I would really be a tad bit concerned. Okay, I would be more than a tad bit concerned that I am representing brands for a manufacturer that doesn't give a damn about me or my business or whether or not it will still exist 2, 3, 6 months from now.
Definitely, man. And again, that was the third headline out of the three, that I just cherry pick these things, right? Like they show up day in and day out that reaffirm what's going on with the reset. Want to go to the chat here for a minute, Dad? And then we have a big story from the FTC that we're going to talk about. Melissa says, what happens to vehicles that never sell? This question is really relevant right now because there's a lot of vehicles that seemingly never sell. One of the things you can see for free back on CarEdge.com is you can see how long a dealer has held on to a vehicle. Let's just do a quick experiment here, Dad. I'm loading the car search, and we've got, Toyota Tundra, 19 days, 3 days, no big deal. Our favorite brand to go after here, 258 days, 267 days. What happens, Dad? What happens to these cars and trucks that never sell?
Well, eventually they sell. They either sell at the auction as the dealer will take it to the auction, lose whatever money they lose, and sell it to another dealer, or the dealers will reduce the price enough to just sell it to their customers. But ultimately, every vehicle gets sold, whether it's on a retail level or a wholesale level. It will be sold, and then eventually it will make its way to a retail customer at a much reduced price.
Yeah, exactly. And we've seen more and more vehicles making their way from dealership lots to auctions. So it is happening. They always get sold. Just kind of goes through that process. Let's go here, Dad, from Omar. Is it better to buy towards the end of this month for Labor Day? What are your thoughts around Labor Day as a time to buy a vehicle, Dad?
Well, Labor Day falls on Monday, September 2nd.
It does.
It does, which means as far as automobile manufacturers are concerned, that will be reported as part of August sales because they will keep the incentives in place probably through Monday, September 2nd. So, yeah, it's good to buy at the end of the month when dealers are trying to hit sales goals that were set by manufacturers so that they can earn extra bonuses from manufacturers. Salespeople are trying to hit sales goals so they can collect bonuses. So this year, this month, the end of the month and Labor Day basically are the same. So yes, there should be some significant savings the last weekend of this month.
We're planning to get pretty doggone busy. And I will also mention Justin on our team. If you Google search Labor Day car deals space CarEdge, it'll pop right up. Justin's done a bunch of work on that front from Robert. Thank you, Robert.
Thank you, Robert.
Laid off from Dana Toledo. Sorry to hear that, Robert.
Yeah,
Currently
sorry.
selling dirty water dogs at Toledo Mud Hens games. Hey, $10 an hour buys a lot of mustard. Don't knock it. Damn, really bummed to hear that. Dad, multi-tiered system, right? You have layoff. You have let's run through. You have cars not selling at the dealership. We see that. You have automakers idling plants, laying off staff. You see that. It happens at the supplier level, the next layer. You see layoffs. You see production shortage, production line causing cutbacks. Yeah, like Robert, thanks for the data point, but holy cow, this sucks.
And then the people that supply Dana, there could be cutbacks there because Dana needs less materials. So it's when it's bad for the manufacturer, it's bad for the manufacturer's suppliers, and it's bad for the manufacturer's suppliers. And so it goes a lot deeper than most people realize. So it's not even. I don't want to say it. I say just start building less expensive vehicles so you can keep these people employed. Build the vehicles that people can afford to buy. And I get the concept, well, that you need all this extra profit to underwrite your failing EV businesses. But slow down on EVs, move more towards hybrids, okay? Make and produce less expensive vehicles, and in the long run you'll probably end up making more money because you'll be selling more vehicles. Just a thought.
I got a record player recently. There's a broken record that I keep playing, and it's that one. All right, Dad. Big story from the FTC. Before we go there, I want to remind everyone, if we can help you out with anything car related, CarEdge, EDGE.com. My dad and I started the company 4.5, it'll be 5 years in December. So thank you, everyone that supports us. FTC takes action against auto dealer group Asbury Automotive for discriminating against Black and Latino consumers and charging for unwanted add-ons. Complaint says Asbury dealers in Texas systematically, quote, packed add-ons to purchases without consumers' consent, adding thousands to the price of cars. Let me read this a little bit, Dad. The FTC is acting against a large dealer group, Asbury Automotive, for systematically charging consumers for costly add-on items they did not agree to or were falsely told were required as part of their purchase. The FTC also alleges that Asbury discriminates against Black and Latino consumers, targeting them with unwanted and higher-priced add-ons. In an administrative complaint, the FTC alleges that 3 Texas dealerships owned by Asbury that operate as David McDavid Ford, Fort Worth, David McDavid Honda Frisco, and David McDavid Honda Irving, along with Ollie Benley, who acted as general manager of those dealerships, engaged in a variety of practices to sneak hidden fees for unwanted add-ons past consumers. These tactics included a practice called, quote, payment packing, where the dealerships convinced consumers to agree to a monthly payment that were larger than needed to pay for the agreed-upon price of the car, and then packed, quote, packed add-on items to the sales contract to make up the difference. Quote, the FTC will continue to crack down on illegal hidden fees and discrimination, which have no place at car dealerships, said Samuel Levin, director of the FTC's Bureau of Consumer Protection. Quote, like the combating auto retail scams rule, today's action underscores our commitment to protecting consumer shopping for cars and leveling the playing field for honest dealers. Numerous consumers complained about Asbury's practices. Consumers reported being charged thousands of dollars without their knowledge for add-ons that range from supposedly protective chemical coatings and service contracts to life and disability insurance policies, according to the complaint. While some consumers reported that salespeople never discussed these products during the sales process, others said that they specifically declined these products only to find out that they were added on without consent. The FTC says that Asbury's sales and financing process made it difficult, if not impossible, for consumers to know they were being charged for these add-ons, with consumers being asked to sign documents on electronic devices that showed only the places where they should sign and not the full documents. In other cases, consumers who noticed the add-on charges were falsely told they were mandatory. I could keep going on here, Dad. Asbury, I want to be very clear. Asbury has come out and aggressively said that this is not true.
They're going to fight it. They're going to take it to court.
It's very important that we get both sides here. The FTC and
yes.
Asbury has said we never did this, never would do it. We're going to fight it.
And maybe they did, maybe they didn't, maybe they're just not willing to settle at this point, because in many cases dealerships just agree to pay whatever fines there are and move on with life. Listen, payment packing goes on in the automobile industry every day of the week. And the excuse that dealerships use is, well, until we run your credit, we don't know what the interest rate is, so we are going to use a generic interest rate. And rather than quote you an exact payment based on a rate that they don't know you'll qualify for, they use a higher rate, and they get you to agree to a payment. Well, the payment can be much higher than what it really would be. Yep. And since you've committed to the payment, not the price of the car, the finance department will then figure out how to stuff all kinds of things into the loan contract to get to that payment. So when we say here at CarEdge, always negotiate the out the door price so you know what the price is that the payment will be based on, as opposed to negotiating a payment, we mean it. You need to operate on the out the door price. Dealerships have been doing this forever. It is wrong. It's in many cases illegal. You're not supposed to quote a payment range, and that's what a lot of dealers do. They might show you a deal with whatever the selling price is, and with $8,000 down, your payment will fall between $710 and $730 a month for 66 months on approved credit. And there isn't a $20 spread in a payment. So what needs to happen is customers need to establish where their credit score would fall to allow for what type of interest rate. But this stuff goes on. Okay?
I don't think that don't overcomplicate it, man. Just everyone and their brother ask for an out the door price. Just do that. And the moment a dealer wants to talk about payment, just say, no, I want to talk about out the door. I don't know, man. I think sometimes we overcomplicate things here. You and I.
No, I do.
You do. Yeah, you do. Which is fair because you got so much experience. But like payment packing is a range of payments that they show you rather than just telling you what your payment is. Then they add crap to it. Simple. Done. Out the door price. Don't worry about anything else my dad said there. Just get a damn out the door price. Sorry, Dad. I don't mean to. Let's just keep it simple, man. Just get an OTD, because this is the type of crap that absolutely can and will happen.
Go on. Yes.
In a statement Friday, Asbury Automotive rejected what it called the, quote, false and, quote, unfounded allegations of misleading business practices and racial discrimination. Customers received full disclosure about the cost of, quote, protection products and the impact on their car payments, according to the statement. Asbury wrote that the dealership also requires an independent deal clerk to review sales to ensure protection products are sold with the customer's signed consent. The automotive group accused FTC officials of refusing to share the methods they used to come to the allegations against Asbury, despite Asbury's request for the information. The FTC issues administrative complaints when it has reason to believe the law is being violated and a proceeding is in the public's interest. That begins a process where the allegations are tried in a hearing before an administrative law judge. The FTC did not provide a date for the hearing. Asbury wrote that it plans to challenge the FTC's lawsuits. Quote, "We will not allow the FTC to coerce fines from us or subject us to onerous requirements that negatively impact the car buying experience for customers, would not apply to others and would place us at a competitive disadvantage in the industry," Asbury CEO David Holt said in a statement.
There you have it. Yeah. Interesting stuff. It would place them at a competitive disadvantage because they wouldn't be able to make quite as much money on the back end as they presently do. And those, in my opinion, and those who haven't had an administrative action taken against their dealership would have the competitive advantage, because they could just continue to go on packing their payments and forcing customers to buy things they didn't know they were buying, in my opinion.
Don't let your payments get packed, folks. Go to CarEdge.com. Let us help you out. From Joe, bad hair day, Zach. Thank you for the kind contribution. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that qualifies.
Yeah, it's pretty bad.
Yeah.
How's it look backwards?
It's still a bad hair day, but
Backwards. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, bad hair day happens.
Yeah.
Thank you for that, Joe. We've got here from Whoop Whoop. Thank you, Whoop Whoop.
Yes.
Hello from Ontario, Canada. Thanks for all you do. Wanting to buy either a Ford pickup truck or a Jeep product. Should I wait until later on in the year, even into 2025? Any insight on Canadian cars situation? Probably end of year, right, Dad? Like, if you don't need to do it tomorrow, end of year.
I don't think Canada would be any different than the United States when it comes to closing out the calendar year strongly. And that's typically when the biggest incentives are going to be available. So end of year would be my guess, even up north in Canada, eh?
We are seeing great deals. I continue to refer people to the concierge service. We're doing a great job. And end of year, yeah, probably still going to be the strongest for those two brands. From Jason. Thank you, Jason. I got offered a loan for 18.75% interest on a $1,040 a month car note, and the salesman was mad at me that I turned it down. Crater Lake Ford, Oregon.
Wow. Well, did you ask the salesperson if he'd like to pay for half of it? And that way you'd be able to make the payment. $520 from him, $520 from you. Enough said. He would have passed.
Interest rates are expensive, man. Wow.
Yes.
Is that on a new truck?
It doesn't. I'm guessing it's probably used.
I'm hoping it's used. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, it's terrible.
Yeah,
it's
it
terrible.
really is. What's not terrible, Pops? CarEdge.com. Like I said a moment ago, if we can help you out with anything, good job to the team updating our page here. Had a great meeting with some of the folks on the team this morning about our research pages and all the work we're planning on doing there. So feeling good about that. And Dad, we'll be back tomorrow, right? At 9 a.m. Pacific time, 12 p.m. Eastern.
That's my plan. God willing, the creek don't rise. I should be back here tomorrow with you. I'm feeling good. So there's no reason to suspect that I won't be here.
Yeah, I am very grateful that you are feeling well, because I am definitely not 100%. Unfortunately, you're not sick. Brian said he's not sick. So very glad to hear that.
Me too. You try as you might to get me sick. Yes.
All right, folks. We'll be back here tomorrow. Thanks so much for tuning in. Love you, Dad.
Love you too, handsome. Thank you, everybody. We'll see you back here tomorrow.